Hey, what's up, everybody? Sorry I'm a little late. It's 12:01, so I'm a little bit late, but hope everybody's Friday's going well. My Friday's going okay, man. We had a really great day here yesterday in Indianapolis. McCoursville was actually nice. Today it's a little rainy, and I'm dealing with some leakage in my office window, which is never fun to wake up to. But welcome everybody. If you're new to joining, or if you're first time watching, my name is Chris Ortega. I'm the CEO of Fresh FP&A. And at Fresh FP&A, we provide fractional CFO and advisory services to high growth businesses. I spent most of my career in accounting, finance, FP&A, and financial leadership. And this channel is all about providing you insights, empowerments, tricks, tips, learnings, failures, all around accounting, finance, FP&A, CFO, entrepreneurship, and building your fractional CFO business. So that is everything about me, and that is everything about the channel. Thank you for tuning in. And today's topic I'm really excited to talk to you about is the STAR method. So you may be looking at this and you're looking at it to say, how's the STAR method actually applicable to a fractional CFO business? So we'll talk a little bit more about what the STAR method is to give you a little bit of baseline. But basically, what the STAR method is, if you've gone through interviewing or if you're going through interviewing right now, the STAR method is kind of one of those like anytime you get that behavior based question where it's like, tell me about a time you overcame adversity, or tell me about a time where you found difficulty in a project or something. Every interviewer, kind of what you learned in business school, what I've learned in interviewing and what I've learned in business school is like the STAR method is that primary framework that you want to use around interviewing. And basically, what the STAR method is from an interviewing perspective is the S is the situation, the T is the task, the A is the action, the R is the result. So interviewers love this because it really gives like a great framework of you like if you get that question, that behavior based question, or you get a general question, you're able to specifically talk about, and you want to keep that clear and concise, but you're able to talk about, hey, here's a situation we encountered, here's some tasks, here's some tasks that I did, here's some actions that resulted in that, and here's also what the response and the result was. So it's a very good framework. I've used it plenty of times in interviewing. I would say it's like my preferred way of like communicating, but also as well too, it's a great way of storytelling. Shout out to my guy Adam, Adam from Flowcock. If you haven't checked them out, make sure to check out Adam at Flowcock. I'll drop a link in the description to Flowcock so you can learn more about how they're helping empower and enable finance teams. I'll drop that link under the resources to this video. But yeah, that's how typically how I've seen it and how a lot of people have utilized the STAR method. But how does that applicable to a fractional CFO business, and how does myself and my team use the STAR method in our fractional CFO business? So when we were dealing with clients, there's always going to be a situation, right? That situation can be, hey, we've got 8 months of runway. Like, how do we extend our runway? Or another situation that you may encounter with a high growth business is that we work with a lot of retail e-commerce businesses, and maybe returns as a percent of sales have gone up the last 3 months, right? You can fill in the blank or whatever that situation is, right? And a lot of times that's going to come directly from your client, right? So a client will come to us and say, hey, we're dealing with the situation we're having in our business is we're dealing with a lot of attrition, either in our employees or with our customers, or our net dollar retention rate is not tracking to our Q1 projection that we need it to be. Mind you, my whole goal of that first S in a fractional CFO business is like there's going to be a lot of situations. And I don't mean situations in a bad perspective, right? Like there could be great situations as well too that you can use the STAR method in your fractional CFO business to help the client. So it can be used interchangeably in great situations or situations that you need to improve, right? And those are some of the kind of metrics, right? And a lot of times in our conversations, in our checkups, and a lot of the conversations that we have with our clients, there's over an abundance of both good and improving situations that you can have. So that's that first S. The first S in building that STAR method for your fractional CFO business and working with your client is finding out what is the business situation. Like, what is that situation? Maybe it's cash, maybe it's employee attrition, maybe it's client attrition, maybe it's increased CAC, maybe it's your cash burn multiples out of whack, or your customer lifetime value decreasing, or it could be a good situation, revenues over your quarterly projections, or you bringing on better clients, your deal sizes increase. There's a lot of business situations, but that's that first situation in that S in utilizing it in your fractional CFO business. The T, now on the interviewing side, this is where you'll give like the task. For me, this is where I look at it with our clients is like, what tasks are currently going on right now, right? So let's walk through a fact pattern of, okay, maybe sales in a retail business returns as a percent of sales was in Q4, maybe it was 10%. And now you're looking at Q1 and that's trending to be 25 to 30%, right? You're obviously going into a double, 2x, 3x increase in returns as a percent of sales quarter over quarter. That's the situation, right? One of the first things that I always advise and sit down with our class on, which gets into with our clients on, is what is currently going on right now, right? So that T in your fractional CFO business is about understanding like what is the current tasks that are being done around that business situation, right? So following back that fact pattern of return at percent of sales is increasing quarter over quarter. That's a situation in the business. What's currently going on around that? Well, maybe the client is offering free shipping as part of their as part of their value proposition. Maybe the returns are increasing because there's not a lot of information around sizing on something, right? The whole purpose of that T in the STAR methodology for your fractional CFO business is like what tasks are currently being done now, right? Like what tasks that you think that you can tie back. And this is where you work with your clients to get into that root cause. Like it's not super high level. Like you're getting into what specific tasks that you think are the key drivers to that business situation, right? And before I continue, the whole purpose of the STAR framework in a fractional CFO business is like it's like building a funnel. Like the same way you're interviewing, where you're walking them down to the situation, the task, the action, and the results or the response that you got from it. You're doing that same thing with your client. You're bringing them down a funnel. You're understanding the business, the broader business situation. You're going into that next layer of identifying the root cause tasks that you think are driving that business situation, which is something that I mentioned, right? Like you got to find those core drivers of what's causing that business situation, right? Then you get into the A aspect of it. And this is where you change the A from actions to advice. This is where you're bringing in your advisory services. This is where you're bringing in your strategic insight. So, following back in our real life fact pattern where return as a percent of sales in an e-commerce business, you don't want that. You typically want that to be less than, I would say, 8 to 5% is a good return as a percentage of sales, right? You don't want to have that really high. If you have returns a percent of sales really, really high and you're giving free shipping, you're losing out on a lot of money. So you typically want to keep that KPI between 5 and 8%, right? That's a good range to be in for a high growth retailer e-commerce business, right? At least that's what I've seen from some of the clients that we support. The task outside of that is what root cause tasks that are you identifying that is directly contributing or maybe indirectly contributing to that business situation. Then when you get into the A, now it's about what is those advisory actions that you want to supply, right? Like this is where you get into more of that strategic level advisory that you want to give to the business, right? What is the plans? Like what is the recipe or remedy that you want to provide to that client that helps address those current tasks, that helps address that broader business situation, right? So one example that you could give is saying, "Hey, look, like I see that you're providing free shipping, and when you have a return for a customer, that customer is getting that full return percentage, right?" So, for example, say a client, the entire value, including shipping, is $100, right? And $10 of that is shipping. When you go refund that customer or do that return, right? You're giving back that entire $100 back to that customer. However, you gave them free shipping, so you're covering the cost of that 10. So really, you're giving back 100, but you're already out the 10. So really, you got 90 of it, right? You got $90 worth of value out of it. So every return that you're giving, you're doing it at a marginal loss of $10 whatever that shipping cost is for that order. So maybe one of those advisory A in the STAR methodology that you can give is saying, hey, maybe if we upload that $10 at the original price point, like literally, we've worked on this. Fresh FP&A, my team have worked on this with the client, and we done an entire analysis of looking at their top performing products, which ones are the highest return percentage, which ones are not. And what we advised them on was including that, looking at the kind of market framework of the products that they sold, right? Looking at the price sensitivity, we actually took their top performing 80% of their products that are returned the most. We said, look, you need to cover that cost of shipping. So in your pricing model, we need to put that cost of shipping in the top level of the price, right? That way, when that return is done, you're not losing out on that shipping cost, you're actually net neutral. So there's no impact, right? If you, in that example, now that that order value was $100 before that, including shipping at 10, now you have that price point for that original product. Maybe it's like, $100. And now that order value is 110. Now, when you return that, you're still net difference on the $10, right? You're paying it out, but you've already got it on the top line of the price. When it's returned, it's neutral. So it's really no cash impact, right? That's where you get into that A. Now you're providing that advice, that advisory services, the action that the client needs to do to address those immediate root cause tasks that are going on that is causing that business situation, right? So you go situation, here are the tasks that are currently going on. Here's the, 3 to 5 different advisory recommendations that we want to give you to help address that. This is a critical one. And this is where I failed in this one, right? When you get to that A, this is where it's your time to shine as that fractional CFO. This is why they hired you, right? This is why you've been in those pricing conversations. This is why how you've made those mistakes in your past career. This is how you've learned, right? So this is where you really bring that value to that relationship, but it's also you're in that partnership with that client, right? Like you're not just coming in and saying, "Oh, yeah, I know your situation. I haven't done the root cause, but here's what you need to do," right? No, you're taking a very process formula based and you're bringing them along that journey to help them provide the insights and give them that strategic direction that they basically hired you for, right? And to me, that A is really where it's your time to shine. Okay, so you got the situation, returns as a percent of sales are up quarter over quarter. Maybe in Q4, it was 10%. In Q1, it's actually going to be 20, 25%. So that's a situation, right? You've identified some of those existing baseline tasks that are going on that could directly or indirectly root cause that business situation. You've got clarity around that. Now you've proposed your 3 to 5 advisory recommendations to address the task and the business situation. Now you get to that final R. The final R is going to be the results, right? And let me tell all fractional CFOs right there, right now, like, do not sit with your client and measure those results on a month to month basis. One of the great things I've learned in my finance and financial leadership and CFO and all the experiences that I've had throughout my career is like 1 month does not create a trend. It does not create a trend, right? And I see some people that are providing advice and insights and recommendations off of just 1 month of data, right? That R in the STAR method for fractional CFOs, you at least need to measure that advisory recommendation and at least in a quarter, right? I think at minimum, a quarter is a right trend for you to be able to set in that particular business situation, the root cause tasks that are going on, the advisory recommendation that you're providing, and the results that you want to see. You want to measure that in at least a 90-day window, right? So, talking back through our example that we've kind of been walking through together, right? You've got returns as a percent of sales, quarter over quarter increasing. You've identified those core tasks that either indirectly or indirectly that are contributing to that business situation. You've provided in that A your 3 to 5 advisory recommendations that you would like the business to implement and integrate in their operations to address the current task and the business situation. When you measure that result, look at that over definitely over a month perspective, but you don't really know the true results and impact that advisory recommendations have had on those root cause tasks to address that broader business situation, at least for 90 days, right? So set that expectation right out the gate. I see a lot of times, right, when you're moving with a high growth business, right, this is where you need to make sure that you're monitoring those tasks and that action and that result inside of that 90-day window. So, and for me, the great thing that you get from all of this information, right? Now you've got a way of I've always liked the STAR method to be it's more of like a doctor it's like more of a doctor relationship with your clients. And I don't mean doctor in like a negative way, but doctor in a sense of it's prescriptive, right? Like you're going through like when you go to the doctor's office, right? You go to the doctor and you say, "Hey, look, this is the situation I'm having. My right shoulder hurts," right? The doctor's probably going to ask you, okay, the situation you're dealing with is your shoulder hurts. Okay, what are some things that you're currently doing that maybe could have hurt your shoulder? Well, I was lifting weights, or I punched the bag wrong, or I slept on it wrong. So you're already diagnosing and saying, okay, these are some things that either indirectly or directly apply to my shoulder hurting. Right? The doctor listens, they take their notes, they're sitting there looking at it, they come back with their advice, and they're like, okay, here's my advisory recommendations for you. You gotta, hold off on high intensity workouts. You got to, maybe take some Tylenol, do the rest method, which I think the rice method, the rest, ice, compression, elevation. I'm gonna do the rice method for fractional CFOs. I'm pretty sure there's a way to put that in there, right? But you do that, and then he says, all right, come back in like a month or see if that works out in like 2 weeks or a week later you get that. So that same STAR methodology is literally a prescriptive way that doctors do things, right? So it's a way of bringing that diligence with your client, right? And the most important thing that fractional CFOs need to be aware of is like you're bringing the client through that journey, right? The worst thing that you can do in that STAR based approach in working with your clients is have them, out, they're not even involved with it, right? The reason why you want that client throughout that journey, three things. A, that's how you build a better trust with that client in that relationship. Two, it's learning for them as well too, right? Like a lot of the business situations and a lot of the tasks that you see and the advisory results that you provide and the advisory recommendations that you provide and the results that you see, that's a great learning, right? Like that's like, okay, I won't touch that hot iron again. I know that if we're going to do free shipping, we need to include it in the price margin going forward, right? So it actually collaborates and gets that learning not just with you, but also with the client as well. So to me, like that STAR based approach is like one of the, and I unlock this because when I'm working with clients and my team, and we're working with clients, and believe you me, we've got a lot of situations that we are working through, both good and bad. It's not just all bad stuff, but it's good things. And I've learned that I've just been applying this methodology, and I'm like, this actually works. It's like really, really good. So that's a good framework for you to be able to have. And plus, now when you get to it and somebody asks you, or maybe a prospect is like you're talking to a prospect later on that are saying, hey man, like this is the one of the biggest concerns that we have is like we don't have a strategic finance leader that has helped us with our return as percentage of sales or whatever that metrics have now, right? This is how it ties all together. You've already worked through that with the client. You've already seen the situation, the tasks that are directly or indirectly root cause contributing to that situation. You provided those advisory recommendations and you've seen the results. Now, when you're on that prospect call in the future, or you as a fractional CFO, you find that pain or frustration that a client has dealt with, bring on the interview hat. Now you've already got your talk track to talk through them in that prospecting call, right? Well, I know that you're dealing with the return of sales, but in some of our clients that we work with, this is what we've done. And now you go right into that prescriptive framework that you can talk to that new prospect and think about that relationship now. Like they're like, wow, like you really did that. Like you were able to clearly, concisely walk through what you're able to. Now, there's always going to be nuances, right? Because like not every business is the same. But now you can take that entire framework that you used in serving a client that could actually help another client because now you have that story, you have that entire perspective that you're able to share with that prospect. So the S.T.A.R, and I honestly, to be honest with everybody, like I came across this and I was looking at it and I seen somebody post on LinkedIn and it was a HR person and they were talking about how the S.T.A.R approach is like the gold standard. And the way that this person was going through and articulating, I was like, dude, that's exactly what me and my team do at Fresh FP&A when we provide strategic level advice to our clients around business situations, both good and bad that they're going through. So that framework is a really, really, really good approach. It helps you with clients, be proactive, and it also helps you on the prospecting side when you see clients or you have other people that are dealing with similar issues. Now you have a point of perspective, right? So that's what I wanted to share with everybody. I think the S.T.A.R methodology is a great framework that a lot of fractional CFOs can use. It's transferable. If you've done any kind of interviewing in your professional career, which I hope you have, you know that if you got to practice with it, it's just changing the lens of how you take it inside of a client relationship and not in an interviewing situation. So to me, definitely find a way to incorporate the S.T.A.R method. Let me go through and summarize that up again. In your fractional CFO business, you want to identify the business situation. That's the S. The T, you want to find the root cause tasks that are either directly or indirectly contributing to that business situation, right? Do not get overboard. Don't try to find like 80 different things, right? Because who can fix 80 different things in a quarter, right? Get down to those really crisp, those critical tasks that are contributing to that business situation. Then the A in the S.T.A.R approach for fractional CFOs is the advisory recommendations that you're providing. This is your time to shine. This is why they pay you. This is the value. This is where it's time to leverage that countless years of experience and in the trenches that you've had. And then the final one in the fractional CFO business for that S.T.A.R framework is the R, the results. The key takeaway in that one, do not measure the results or impacts in a monthly basis. You at least want to commit and see that over at least a quarter, right? You want to A month doesn't set a trend. At least at a minimum, look at those results and look at those results. Look at the results that those advisory recommendations have provided over at least a 90-day period, right? And then the biggest highlight of all that, once you've done that kind of prescriptive framework in that client relationship, now when you look forward for your business and you get that client or that prospect and you see one of the pains or frustrations that they're seeing in their business, boom, now you got a real life use case of you using the S.T.A.R prescriptive framework that you can share with that client in that call, in that scoping call, in that first meeting. You automatically have a solution in a detailed perspective and what you've done, what the situation was, the task that you've identified, the advisory recommendations you provided, and the results that you've seen, that you can now empower and share that with a prospect or a new potential client. So this is a classic framework and it's a CFO, fractional CFO hack, win-win on both sides. So hope you've enjoyed it. If you really enjoyed this conversation, every Friday from 12 to about 12:30, 12:45, we do Fresh CFO Fridays. So make sure to tune in. If you haven't already, hit that comment, like, and subscribe. Hit that notification bell on our YouTube page. That way you don't miss any other of our videos or any other Fresh CFO Fridays. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed it. And as I always end every video, keep pushing, never settle, and the best is yet to come. Let's get it. Thank you, everybody. Yeah, thank you, everybody. I hope you got value from it. Yeah, thank you so much for your time and enjoy your Fridays. Peace.